As far as my music, I left the music industry intentionally in around 2001. My album came out in 99, but I had been performing. I had been an artist since I was probably 12 or 13 years old. I was born the year hip-hop was born in 1973, and the first hip-hop record I memorized was Rapper's Delight, and I was probably 6. And so I had been rhyming since I was a child, and I started writing my own when I was about 10 or 11, and it started out me rewriting other artists' work as a child. So I rewrote Run DMC's My Adidas and became My Makita, which was my cat. And then that evolved into, because I wrote poetry, and it evolved into me writing my own rhymes at about 12 or 13. And battling boys on the bus, and they like, oh, that little girl can't rap, and then I would tear them up, and then they'd be like, oh, yes, you can. And I got a record deal when I was 16. We ended up not signing it. My dad was like, nah, it's not a good idea. Finished school, went to college, went through life, things happened, and circled back around to music. It never left, but I wasn't actively performing anymore, and ended up, long story short, getting a deal with Red Zone Entertainment with Tricky Stewart, and he put me on the song Who Dat with JT Money, and that in turn got me a record deal, as well as a publishing deal, as well as a Billboard award, as well as an ASCAP award. It was on the charts, the #1 for 8 weeks, and so it kind of all happened. It appeared like it happened really fast, but it had been a long time coming. And then after that first album came out in 99 and 2001, I decided I didn't want anything else to do with the music business. My lawyer at the time was Kasim Reed, who was the last mayor of Atlanta. He wasn't, of course, then, but he negotiated my record deal, and he also successfully negotiated me out of the record deal, not owing anything, and I walked away to live a normal life and raise my children, and be away from that madness that I didn't feel connected to. 18 years later from my album coming out, I'm now in the studio recording a new album. I actually did record a second album that I said I wasn't going to promote, that I didn't want to come out. I decided I wanted nothing to do with it, and I left. So people thought, oh, she got dropped, but that's absolutely not the case. I had to pay a lot of money to my lawyer to get negotiated out of that record deal and walk away. 18 years later, I've circled back around, and I'm in the studio recording a new album that will be out the top of 2019. One of the things that's changed, the desire to create has always been there, but the lack of desire and disenchantment for the music industry has remained. I knew that I couldn't let that one record that came out in 1999 when I was 20-something years old be the only musical representation that I left in this earth realm for my children and for my children's children and their children to look back and say, damn, that was my grandma. My grandma was off the chain, especially when there has been such a huge evolution and remembering of who I've always been, and me coming into a full blossom of that. And so it's important for me to leave now a different imprint. Some of this is karmic. Some of this is, whatever we do, karma just means action. And so every action, there's another action or reaction in response to that. And even when we do things out of ignorance, there is a price to be paid for everything that we do, and we don't get to choose what that consequence will be. And so part of walking out that your dharma, or what we're put here to do, is sowing good karma. And for me, it's important to go back. Not that my album was terrible. I mean, I had a foul mouth, so I cussed like nobody's business. I mean, I'm good at it. And so, but all of the images that I was portraying, all of the songs and things that I was talking about weren't things that I would want to be putting out into the atmosphere now. It's, if we haven't grown and changed since 20-something to 40-something, and you wasted 20-some odd years. And so it's been such a especially in an outsider's eyes, a drastic change, but in a good way. And I think there needs to be, that needs to be seen and visual, that there's another representation out there in hip hop, especially for women. I remember sitting in my living room one day and thinking about my children. I have 4 girls. And I asked myself, these images that you're portraying, these words that you're speaking, this music that you're putting out, is that what you want for them? Is that what you would want them to emulate and be? And that was a resounding no. And so I asked Spirit, what do I do? Spirit said, you become the example you want them to be. And that was a moment, the moment that I knew that I had to start walking out this different path and becoming the embodiment of what I wanted them to become. And that was a process.